Good afternoon and welcome to the Financial Capability and Wealth Foundations Summit. And today's summit is brought to you by the Sheconomy and also She Rises Studios. We have a really great lineup today, and today is all about understanding the fundamentals of finance and the systems that do work and also the systems that no longer work. We're going to hear from women today who have walked the walk, talked the talk, and are here to share their knowledge with you. It is my honor to bring this summit to life because we are in mid financial literacy month here in the United States. This broadcast is brought to you by Phoenix TV and is being streamed in over 127 countries as we speak. And we want to do summits like this in real life, in live broadcast, because we want to be able to connect to you as the viewer and listener. And this is a topic that is so important and speaks to everything that has to do with the development of the women's economic system, also known as the Sheconomy, but also for women across the globe. We need to know our numbers. We need to understand the foundations of wealth and the capabilities that we have. And so I would love to start this by kicking off our very first speaker. And she is no stranger to the big screen. She is an author, a speaker, a writer. She is a business bottleneck strategist. Her name is Kathy Baldwin. She's the founder of Finally Business Infrastructure. And with over 40 years of experience in sales, operations, and system design, she helps founders identify the very hidden bottlenecks and system gaps that keep their business from scaling, which is so important. Her work focuses on removing friction, creating the systems that allow businesses to grow with clarity, efficiency, and true financial stability. So please help me welcome Kathy Baldwin to the stage.
Hello, Hannah. So glad to be here. Oop, okay. Well, I want to start this off by asking a question. What if the greatest thing that you could do for your business was to shift your perspective? And I asked this question because I started thinking about it when I was watching the Artemis landing and the whole thing that happened with that moon escapade. Sorry, tripped over my words there. That changed the perspective of those people in that mission, but it also changed the perspective of us here on Earth. And there's two features or effects that happen when we change our perspective that I wanted to talk about before I applied this to business. Because in my books and in my talks, I'm always talking about how the shift in perspective, our change in relativity changes the actual outcomes. So I want to talk about the effect of the overview effect, which is the effect that happens when you go to a macro level, which is what these astronauts did when they were around the moon and they were looking back at Earth. They didn't see all of the little problems. They didn't see the details of our life. They saw how Earth was connected to the entire universe, the relationship with the moon, the relationship with the sun and the orbits. And they saw everything from what we call an overview effect. Because nothing about Earth shifted, they just zoomed out. And so their perspective changed. The other part of the equation, it has to do with quantum physics. So bear with me while I play with this theory with you, because there was a study that was done that ended up being, I think it was called a double slit experiment, and they coined the observer effect, which is that everything exists in possibility based on your perspective of how you look at it. So if everything changes based on how you think about it, how you see it, then you can change how you respond to any problem by changing the perspective that you look at it. And that's what I want to talk about right here, right now. Because when you are operating from the observer effect versus the overview effect, you're going to see the same problem or opportunity in a totally different perspective. And what I have discovered is that so many businesses are missing opportunities. They're missing ability to scale because they are living in the micro level, and they are naturally absorbing broken systems. And there are so many things that are at play here and right now. We have the speed of technology happening, and so many businesses are scrambling to keep up. There's AI and there's automation, and then there's the whole macro level of geopolitical and economic systems that are in massive flux. And so many businesses are trying to figure out how to adapt and how to keep ahead of these changes that are happening. And so many of them are adapting tools and AI without thinking about the strategy or the system behind it. And so it's like plopping a band-aid on every little problem instead of designing an entire ecosystem of your business. So my question to you right now is, in your business, what depends on you? What depends on you showing up, you making the decision, you having the information, you having the vision? Or is your business scalable enough that your business can run without you involved in it? Those are one of those things that I talk about when I'm looking at businesses, because I want you to think about three major areas that so many businesses are getting caught up in right now. One is friction points. And that is where you have a system that already exists. And it could be this is the way we've always done things. But something in your system is creating friction or causing things to get stuck in that whole process and not move slow or in ease and flow. The second is gaps. And that's where so many people are bringing in AI tools and automations, and they're plugging the holes of the gaps with everything that they can think to find, rather than looking at the entire ecosystem of the business. And the third thing is bottlenecks. And most bottlenecks happen because of a founder or a stakeholder in the business is usually so good at what they do. They built the business, they built the relationships, they were the visionary, they created the business out of nothing. And so they are so used to being adaptable and innovative and moving with the issues and solving each problem. But that means that your business is so dependent upon that participation of you or another key member. that if something were to happen or that person was removed from the system, the entire business becomes vulnerable. So I have a question that I want you to ponder, and that is, if I waved a magic wand for you right now, and I doubled or tripled the amount of qualified leads of people who were hungry for your service, who had the money to buy and they were ready to go, could your system handle that kind of scale? Because what happens so many times is those fracture points that exist in our businesses that are naturally adopted and handled by our expertise and our ability to handle situations immediately bubble to the surface when we start to scale and grow. When you're scaling and growing and those opportunities are there, that is not the time and place to identify where you are at risk or where you're vulnerable. And so I do, as a business bottleneck strategist, what I do is an audit. And so let me explain what the audit looks like, whether you want me or you want to do your own audit. Although I'm going to caution you that there is that whole phenomenon of the forest for the trees issues. We have a tendency to kind of fill in the blanks of things and not actually see things clearly. So be aware of that human bias that's available. But when we talk about friction, it shows up as leads come in, but they don't convert. Prospects are saying things like, let me think about it. Or you have a great marketing plan and it's driving a lot of interest, but it's not actually converting into sales. Or clients are overwhelmed and confused as to what the next step is within your business. This creates drag. Now, the gaps is where it's not necessarily that something's broken. It's just that something hasn't been built yet. And that's where so many people are plugging in these tools and AI and hoping it solves those issues. But if you don't have a clear client journey, if you have not really identified what your offer stack looks like and how your products fill the needs of your clients, those gaps are going to become massive gaping holes where leads can fall into. And those are hard to recover. And bottlenecks, this bottleneck will show up as you having to approve every single decision, you needing to be involved in every sale that happens. You need to explain the details of your offers. You need to be the one solving your problems and operations. The thing is, you do not want your business to be capped by human capacity. This is where systems can help you scale and grow. So, if you are interested in having an outside perspective, I would love to be able to help you with it. I do macro and micro audits that can help you either identify your business infrastructure and architecture, or we can go deep diving into how your client actually sees what it is that your business is offering and moves them through your business. I encourage you to take a look and see if you can find your friction, your gaps, and your bottlenecks, and then design a system that brings your ideal clients through your business from the moment they know about you until the moment they become a raving fan. When you systematize it right the first time, you do not have to do what so many businesses are now doing, undoing their previous decisions, their mistakes that didn't work, because they automated and brought in AI too fast, and they removed the human intelligence from their business. Because we as humans cannot and will not ever be replaceable, but the work, that can be. Thank you.
Thank you, Kathy. What a powerful share of knowledge. And I love when you're talking, like really explaining the three major things that happen within a business. But what really clicked to me is when you said now businesses are having to spend time kind of unraveling what they first created because that system no longer works. But my total takeaway for this was yes, the friction, the gap, the bottleneck, because those are major issues, right? But you also talked about that no matter what, how far technology goes, humans are not replaceable. But having this type of system makes all the dollars and all the cents. We're not losing money, we're actually making more while truly doing less. So that excites me. So thank you for sharing. How can people connect with you today, Kathy?
Best way is kathybaldwin.me.
Easy, easy, easy. Thank you very much, Kathy. And we'll have Kathy back for some Q&A. And thank you again for joining us today.
My honor and pleasure. Thank you.
So before we dive into our next extraordinary guest for today, I want to talk to you and just kind of set the tone here for today. We as women see summits like this almost every day now. And the reason why is because we have a message. We have a want to share our expertise. We have a want to make a shift in helping grow not only our businesses, but other businesses. We want to be supporters. So I feel like today's summit is more stepping into conversation. And some of those conversations and things that you're going to hear today, like what Kathy shared, should have happened a long time ago, but we get caught up with the day to day. And so they always end up being surface level conversations. And I'm not talking about social media conversations. I'm not talking about conversations where we're saying we're going to change things and everything's going to be good, but I'm talking about conversations about money. And money and financial literacy obviously go hand in hand. And conversations about money are often uncomfortable. They require you to go deeper than the surface level. They require you to have a fundamental understanding of knowing your numbers, knowing what is going in, what is going out, where is it going. But it's even deeper than that. It comes from the root of where you learned what money is. And money is a tool that can be turned into a iron working machine for your good. A lot of people are afraid of money. They have a fear of lack of money or a fear of success with it or what to do with it. And so today's conversations, I'm sure we're going to discuss money as a system, money as a wealth structure, conversations about power, about access, and how women actually financially are building systems that create stability, they create growth, and they create legacy over time. And that is one of the most important things that we can do, not just professionally, but also personally. A lot of these things go hand in hand because if we can't understand money in our personal, how could we understand it in our professional lives? And so I want to start by saying this very clearly. This is not an overnight success personally or professionally. It's not about quick money, and it's not so much about the fix because, as I mentioned, money is a tool. And the truth is, most women were never taught how to use the tool, including myself. I recently was doing a travel back in time, reading one of the first books that I had ever written about money. And I remember that my first real lesson with money was knowing I didn't have any. I was a single mother and I wanted to grow my money. I wanted to understand it. All of the wants and needs were there, but I didn't know where to look, where to find the resources, the support, the education. And I actually joined a group in my church that wanted to talk about money and how to save it, how to grow it. And this is almost 3 decades ago. And I was taught the envelope system. I labeled 10 envelopes from bills to the specific bill, all the way to my wish list envelope of a vacation. And so over time, whether it was 50 cents, 10 cents, a dollar, $2, for 2 years straight, I poured into this envelope system. And over at that 2 year mark, which was when I promised I would open them, except for the ones that I used to pay for bills, I had saved up several thousands of dollars to go take that dream vacation. Now, had I known then what I know now, I would have chosen two options for that money. One would have absolutely been to take the vacation that I wanted, but the other would have been to invest and to get more education behind the money so that I could continue to grow it, so that I was no longer surviving, but it looked more like thriving. So these are the conversations. This is why financial literacy is so important, because we want to talk about how to invest, where to invest. We want to talk about ownership. We want to talk about wealth strategy, because there is one. The conversations about survival, I hope, will shrink over time, because the economy is what will really put that into play. We've created a system where the single mother no longer has to survive, where the season 2 woman is making a pivot in business, where the C-suite woman is exiting corporate world, opening her business, and the list goes on and on. The fact of the matter is that none of them are wrong decisions. It's that we don't have enough education, funding, and resources to go around. And the reason we don't is because we don't talk about it. We don't ask for it. And so we as women have to really start talking about it and making the straight out ask of what we need. So money is a tool. How do we use this tool? How do we work this tool? And I'll tell you, it takes time. It takes understanding. And so the truth about women and money, and I want to give you facts because I do market research. It's part of my job. And the facts are this: in the United States of America, as of April 15th, 2026, women do control over $10 trillion in assets today, which is huge. And by 2030, women are expected to control over $30 trillion. So what does this mean? What does this mean for today? Why am I even bringing this up? This means that women are becoming the largest holders of wealth in the United States. However, and this is a big however, nearly 60% of women say they themselves do not feel confident about money, nor do they understand the concept of growing their wealth. Nearly 70% say they were never taught how wealth actually works. And that comes from the root. I'm talking when we're little girls, young men, young women, not being taught at home. We don't even balance checkbooks like we did before. So the support, the education, the true understanding, and being given a space and place where you can truly ask these questions without the shame and blame game. Globally, women are the biggest investors globally. We invest up to 90% back, 90% of our income back into our families, our communities, and our businesses. So women are earning, women are building, women are giving, Women are absolutely leading, but we're still feeling uncertain. And that is not a capability issue. That is an education and access issue. So, money is a system. It's not just an income. Money is not something that you earn. Money is a system. And most women were only shown one part of that system: earn, spend, repeat. And my friends, that's not wealth. That's a cycle that I hope we can break by doing these types of live summits and education through the Sheconomy. Real wealth is built through ownership, leverage, assets, positioning, and proximity. And when you understand these, everything changes. Ownership is where it begins. Means you own something that produces value, not just something that you do. Something that you own: a business, a brand, a book, a program, a platform. Ownership means you are no longer limited by your time. You are building something that can grow beyond your daily effort. And Kathy talked a little bit about that earlier. Leverage, how you multiply. Leverage is how you stop doing everything alone. It is using people, systems, technology, and partnerships so you grow results without burning out. Because let's be real for a second. Women are constantly on burnout, overwhelm. They shut down. And once they're out of their business, if it's not set up to continue without them, there is no business. So as quick as we're opening these businesses, they're closing even faster because women are trying to do it themselves. And if you do it that way, you will always cap your income. Let's talk about assets for a second. What builds stability? Assets pay you repeatedly, not one time, not twice, not occasionally, but consistency. Assets look like digital products, books, investments, content that converts to currency, equity. And this is how you stop starting from zero again and again and again every month. Positioning, how you get paid differently. You can be the most talented woman in the room of the year and yet still be invisible. Positioning is how people see you. It determines your value, your pricing, your opportunities. And when your position shifts, when you really step into what it is that you are meant to be doing, your income shifts. Proximity, that's one of my favorites. It speeds this up. Who are you around? Because it matters. Because who you are around determines what you believe, what you will study, what you will see, and what you will have access to. You cannot reach new levels in the same environments. And that's a fact. Now, let me tell you why this summit was so important and why the Sheconomy is in motion. It is not a concept. It's a living, breathing, functioning ecosystem on a global level. Because many people hear the word but don't fully understand it. They think, oh, it's a cute concept. The Sheconomy isn't. It's an economic system designed for women. It's for women to come in to learn, to build, collaborate, to scale, to be seen, to be positioned, to access opportunities. It's made up of media platforms, magazines, podcasts, visibility channels, business education, collaborative opportunities, live events, strategic rooms, partnership pathways. Inside the Sheconomy, women gain visibility so they are no longer hidden, education so they understand the systems, positioning so they are valued and seen differently, collaboration so that you never have to build alone again, and access to rooms, relationships, and opportunities. Because the truth is, women are not lacking talent. And we have found a way to solve that through the Sheconomy. This is not overnight, ladies and gentlemen. This is built. And let me be clear about something. None of this is easy. Wealth is built over time with intention, with mistakes, lots of mistakes, with learning, with support. And it requires the education, the strategy, the consistency, the community, the funding, someone believing in you and saying, this is a great idea. Let's turn it into something that actually moves. And most importantly, the willingness to think differently. Women who built from nothing, like myself, we're not a theory, we're real. We've come from poverty to where we are today. Women like Sarah Blakely, who started out with $5,000 and built a global company. Look at Ursula Burns, raised in public housing, became a Fortune 500 CEO. And let me say this clearly. I am so proud to be one of these women that came from poverty, raised as a child with a single mother who didn't finish high school, who didn't have the fundamentals. And had I not felt that urge and tug to know that there was more, I would still be there. I learned along the way a long time ago, fail forward. You win or you learn. But you decide what you win and what you learn. Create something that helps you, but also something that helps women and the men who champion us so that this ecosystem can grow exponentially and thrive. We're in critical times right now. And so the real shift, it's to stop being about money and becomes about identity. You stop saying, I'm trying to figure this out, and you start saying, I am building wealth. And you have so many experts today who are going to talk to you more about that. You stop reacting. Women have become reactive. And instead of being reactive, be strategic and structure. Structure is so important. Never be afraid to ask for help. Never be afraid to ask a fellow woman, how did you do this? Where do you suggest I go? And the woman that gets the question, don't gatekeep, answer, tell the truth that you had to work hard. The things that you did, we need to stop the gatekeeping today, now, forevermore. And I want you to think about the version of you right now, sitting at the table, moving money around, trying to make it stretch, because this is still a part of your current story, but it absolutely doesn't have to be your future, because now you're going to learn to understand the system. Now you know money is a tool and you operate the tool. Now you can focus on education, support, resources, getting in the right rooms, and all of that. And that is what we're building. So this just is not another summit. These women are experts, and we're here to share our expertise with you. This is a starting point. This is where clarity begins. This is where confidence is built. This is where women stop guessing and we start building the right way. So welcome to the Wealth Foundation Summit. Welcome to a new level of understanding, and welcome to the Sheconomy, and let's rise together. So my next guest needs no real introduction. This is another woman who is phenomenal, who walks the walk, talks the talks, lives and eats and breathes everything that I just shared and more. Her name is Jax Kreider, and she's a financial education expert, speaker, coach, podcast host, and best selling author who is dedicated to helping women break free from outdated money rules and create financial life that actually works for them. Jax has over 20 years in financial services and as the founder of Financial Mastery Simplified. She blends practical strategy with powerful mindset work to help women move out of overwhelm into aligned action. Jax, we're so honored to have you with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. And man, I mean, first of all, what a speech, right? I was like over here like, "Amen, say it, Hannah." I was like, "Yeah, exactly." All the things that I feel. And first of all, I am super honored to be here for so many reasons. One, I am super passionate about financial education. I'm also super passionate about helping women. I feel like, and actually the name of my talk literally is "You're Not Bad with Money." And I say this because over 20 years of me, you know, being in the financial service space and hearing this over and over again, especially from women, it kind of makes me mad a little bit, actually, because it's just not true, right? And so I know what most of women are feeling, right? Like they feel like that they've tried to do everything right and they're trying to put all the pieces in place and they've worked super hard and they've been responsible and they've tried to follow the advice and they're picking and choosing the gurus of who they listen to and it just doesn't feel like it's working out and it is so frustrating. Like no matter what you're doing, something is just off. And so I need everyone who's listening to this to hear this super, super clearly. It is not a you problem, it is a system problem. And so I need you to know that this is not just from me working with thousands of clients over the course of time. It's because I personally have lived it. I actually am blessed, unlike Hannah, maybe where I actually did have financial education in my home. I was super lucky that I had a mother who made me read Sound Mind Investing in eighth grade. Yes, in eighth grade. And so I had a lot of this education. But still, what I did was I spent years trying to do things the right way, right? I tried to follow rules and I tried to check the boxes. And I thought that this is what I was supposed to do, that this would yield me the kind of wealth that I was looking for, the kind of fulfillment, financially that I was looking for. And so on paper, I actually looked pretty good. Like I looked like I had it all together. But internally, I just wasn't feeling it. I didn't feel aligned and I didn't feel fulfilled. And honestly, none of it really felt like mine. And so there was this point in my life, and maybe some of you can relate to this, where I felt like I was constantly trying to fit into some version of success that didn't actually fit me. Hannah was talking a minute ago about how, there are people that she hopes maybe will leave the corporate world that will kind of follow their dreams, follow that alignment. And I'm in agreement with that because so oftentimes I feel like you're so focused on financial success, you're so focused on what everyone has told you you should want that you haven't asked yourself. And so I was doing everything that made sense to everyone else. And I was trying to run around like a chicken with my head cut off, trying to figure it out and do what, my parents said or what society said. But I really wasn't creating any kind of life that I actually wanted. And the more that I just tried to force myself into this box, the more frustrated I became. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I wasn't capable. I was more than capable, as are you. But because I was trying to follow a path that was never designed for me in the first place, I just felt like I was failing. And so I see this over and over again in women that I help and that I serve in the mortgage space, in the financial coaching space, and especially in this kind of middle stage of life that I'm personally in. And I know people have been told that they need to save a certain way or spend a certain way, invest a certain way, do all of these things, do them in this order, and don't mess it up. and everyone's looking for the easy button, the little, quick blueprint of exactly the steps to take. But the problem is that somewhere along the way, you really stop asking yourself the most important question, which is, does this actually work for me? And so most people are trying to budget their way into a life that they never spent the time to define. And so when Hannah was talking a little bit about, your mindset, where your head's at, this is where the shift comes, because you have to start setting up your own framework. So instead of me trying to give you another set of rules today, what I'm going to try to do is I want to give you a different way that I want you to think about money. And this is kind of what I call the financial reset. And so step one, where are we going? This is very simple, but it is a step that literally almost everybody skips. And it's taking a pause, stepping back, and actually asking yourself, what is it that, where is it that you're trying to go anyways? Not what somebody told you should want, and not what looks good on paper, but what do you actually want your life to look like? Because when you actually have a picture of what you want, you can work backwards and figure out what the money needs to look like and what the plan needs to be. But if you don't define it, the money is never going to feel right. It doesn't matter how much you make, how much or little you hold, it will never be enough. It'll never hold the kind of value and intention that you want. And so step two is, what's actually happening? So for step two, this is like, what is actually happening right now? And I don't mean this with judgment. I mean this like you have to come from a place of true and pure honesty, because you cannot shift something that you are unwilling to look at and take a deeper dive into. And then it's pretty simple. When we come to step three, it's just taking one aligned shift. What's one small shift that you yourself can make that is actually going to move you to a closer to the life that you just defined? This is not like a full overhaul. This is not perfection. This is literally simply alignment. And so if you haven't taken the time and taken the pause, and I don't mean that you have to have every single detail put down on paper. So please hear that when I say I don't need you to have everything done perfectly, okay? What I need you to do is you to have good and clear intention about where you want your life to be, where you want it to go, and without the judgment or the haze of, keeping up with the Joneses, of what the Instagram people are going to believe about you or whatever that looks like. You have got to step back and ask yourself, what is what you really want, and how do I just start taking one step towards alignment? Because I'm that person. I get really overwhelmed. I take on too much. So what I've learned is, like Hannah said, fail forward. Take one small, intentional, aligned step at a time. Because this is what I know a lot of you are thinking. Well, I should have all this figured out by now, and I'm just not good with money. And I don't want to mess it up. And so I want to challenge that for a second, that you are not behind and you are not bad with money. You have just been trying to follow rules that were never designed for you, a box that somebody stuck you in that you didn't belong to. And so there is literally no one right way to do money. You can ask myself or any other expert on this summit, and I guarantee you, you're going to get 4 different answers of how to be successful with money, the way that we accomplished it. Why is that? Because we're each unique, like a fingerprint, right? And we have that ability to find the way that works best for us. And so there's only the way that works for you. And so I want you to take a second just for you, and you don't have to write it down, but it's probably helpful. So just think about it. Where am I actually trying to go? Does the way I'm currently managing money support that life? And what's one shift that I can make this week to move that closer to where I want to go and what I want it to look like? That's where real change starts. And so I just can't encourage you enough that yes, you absolutely need the mechanics about money. You should invest in yourself. You should invest in courses or listening to podcasts, connecting with some of the amazing women on this summit in the Sheconomy, people like this, to get the fundamentals and do this. But the truth, the real core crux of financial capacity and financial capability is that you don't need more rules. You simply need to create a plan that actually fits who you are and the life that you actually want, not somebody else's version of it. And so if this resonated with you, I did create like a simple financial wake up call moment, and I will make sure that you guys will be able to connect with me on it. But my goal here really truly is just to help bring you to awareness of what it is you actually want. Because no matter how many steps you follow, no matter how many, programs you invest in, if you're not willing to do the hard work of digging within and really figuring out what it is and who you want to be and what you want your financial life to look like, and guess what? It's just not going to be a successful life, a financial successful future that you wanted. So you are more than capable of creating exactly the financial life that feels like yours, just like I am. Thank you.
Wow. All I kept hearing is financial authenticity
For sure.
from that, because you're right. Money is the tool, right? And every one of us has access to this tool. It's how we choose to use it. So not only being financial literate, but also authentic, because we don't all have the same wants, needs, desires, and wishes. And so how we get what we want is creating our own system and being authentic and doing it. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I talk on my podcast all the time. It doesn't matter what I think or what you think about somebody's plan or somebody's life, right? As long as it resonates with them. The problem is I see women specifically make the mistake all the time that they are trying super hard to meet some checklist guideline sheet that somebody else created for them. And I'm like, that's never going to work for you. You're never going to feel successful, aligned if you didn't help create the rules yourself. Like, it's just never going to work.
I love that. I think that when you were asking them that question, I hope that they all really take the time to do the work, because that's the first step, is really knowing what you want, and really knowing where you are currently and working backwards. It's honestly one of my favorite things. So thank you for sharing that.
For sure.
So in honor of what Jax was talking about, we're going to go ahead and bring on Kathy and Dr. Michelle up here for a short midway Q&A transition, so that we can kind of discuss some of the things that were already shared at the top of the hour. And so I wanted to ask you ladies a question, and that will allow the audience to really hear, when Jax pointed out, the different perspectives of how to build your wealth, how to grow it, how to keep it, or even understand what wealth is. So my very first question is this: most women were not taught how money actually works, only how to earn, only how to spend. So in your experience, what is the biggest financial blind spot women have currently today? So I'm going to kick that straight to Michelle first, and then we'll popcorn it to Jax and then Kathy.
That's such an incredible question. I would say, based on my experience, not only my own, but with clients and talking with other women, not paying attention to what's going on is the biggest blind spot. We throw out so much to everybody else, giving so much to everybody else, not just emotionally and physically, but also financially. And while I completely understand it, because I'm the same way, I do the same thing, we have to also take care of ourselves. If we're not taking care of ourselves and planning for our own future, there's not going to be anything left for us to be able to give to anyone else completely.
Very true. What do you say, Jax?
Well, first of all, I love that perspective because I don't disagree with it, and I think kind of what I have to say about it is similar in the authenticity of that. And it's that I feel like a lot of times women outsource their power. I think we have so many different things going on. We have, so many different balls that we're kind of keeping in the air, and so we just give that to somebody else to handle. And the problem there is that then you're living somebody else's life from a financial aspect, and you don't even necessarily know if it's what you want. And so I have a background, I have a law degree, and I work in mortgage space or whatever. So I see a lot of like divorce situations. And all of a sudden you find this woman who is super smart, who has degrees, and she's a successful business owner or successful in corporations, right? All these things. And she doesn't know anything about what's going on in the money in her life. And I'm like, hey, it's okay, like for you to trust, your spouse, your partner, whoever's helping you, maybe where you don't know every single detail, but you need to still be involved in the conversation. You still need to be able to have say in what's going on that's going to affect your financial future. And so please, please don't outsource your financial power. It doesn't mean you have to hold it all. And I think that's what women think. They think, oh, if I deal with it, then I have to hold all that space too. And I'm already holding so much other things. I disagree. It doesn't have to be that way. But you shouldn't outsource that power to everybody else. You should be in the mix of the conversation.
Love it. Yes. Kathy.
I love what both of these ladies have just finished saying. So I'm going to take it from a different perspective. And that is our education system trained us to be right or wrong. And that paralyzes so many people because they're afraid to try, to experiment, to play with, to find out who they are, because when things don't go according to perfection, they're labeled as wrong, and we see it as a failure, a personal failure of who we are, when in fact it's part of the evolution. And so if we take a look at all of the successful people in the world, they did what you said, fail forward, by not being afraid to make a mistake and getting rid of that grading system that a mistake is something bad. A mistake is a step on the journey. That's all it is.
Absolutely.
I agree with all three. And I think for me, if I were to answer that, I'm going to answer it. But I think another piece of it is they don't know what they don't know. And that's a big issue. And they don't know what they don't know because they're not equipped. I believe that financial literacy starts at a very young age. And had I been one who was raised to ask simple questions, I don't like to use the word budget, but just, how much do we have for an example, groceries, or, covering an electric bill. I mean, we're talking just the fundamentals of understanding and still knowing that it's a tool. Money is a tool. It opens things, it closes things, but they don't know what they don't know. So that's what part of this summit is about, is to bring that out. So my next question is kind of one of my favorite ones. We talk a ton about empowerment. Women's empowerment. I mean, we should all be getting the EGOT awards for empowerment because we're so good at it. However, empowerment without economics, especially now, does not create financial literacy or freedom. In fact, it does the opposite. And I know for anyone watching now or listening later, you're going to be like, no way. I'm telling you, do the research because it's true. We are on this empowerment ride, this magic carpet ride. And yes, it's important to be empowered, but it's also important to take the empowerment and turn it into an ecosystem that grows money, that grows so many different things within. So here's my question. What does true and real time empowerment with economics, what would that look like? How would women access this? So I'm going to go to you, Kathy.
Okay, I hope I'm going to answer the question the way you are phrasing it, because what's coming to my mind is the amount of people that I have spoken to who say, I can't afford it, who say, my family comes first. I need to take care of my children first. And what that does is it takes the personal responsibility for each individual and it puts it on somebody else. So if I'm understanding your question, to me, personal independence is personal freedom, and that allows us to be not dependent and not a burden. Because you hear so many people say, I don't want to be a burden, but yet they put everyone else first. And if we don't want to be a burden, that means we got to put ourselves first. We have to take care of ourselves. And so that to me is what financial freedom looks like. Independence, freedom to make choices, and not put the responsibility of our lives on somebody else.
Kathy, I have a follow-up for that. What systems do you think need to be in place to see empowerment and economic shift be together? What kind of systems can we as women put into place for that?
Are you referring to business or personal? Because we can systematize each.
Either or.
Well, when I think about what I do with audits, I find where the friction points are. So where are we repeating? Where are we doing the same things over and over again, where we're wasting our human energy? So even if you take a look at things like your grocery list, if you create a system for something like that, you can automate so much of that process, and that's going to free up time and energy to be able to put into something else. We can take that methodology, that thought process, and apply it to any area of our lives where there are repetitive tasks, where there are things that we're doing that don't require our unique genius. Ask for help for someone else, build a team, create community, share resources. Basically, what the Sheconomy is doing.
Thank you, Kathy. What would you say, Dr. Michelle?
And to your first question, correct? Okay.
Either or.
Okay. So I love the question in general about, empowerment is not just about pretty words and making you feel better. Like, and when I say, listen, I'm a words of affirmation person, so give me all the words. I love the words. But it can't just be that. You're exactly right. It has to be more than that. And this is something I talk with my clients about all the time. One of the very first things we talk about is you've got the encouragement, but it's also information and education, right? But guess what? God, I'm in that phase of life where my brain is just freezing. I love it. Knowledge is not power unless it's applied, right? So yes. You can get all the encouragement, you can get all the information. That's great. But if you don't do anything with it, it's not going to help you. Sometimes that means you have to actually sit down with somebody else to have a conversation, which takes a lot of vulnerability. And trust me, I know how hard that is. 100%. But it's very important. If you don't have all the tools and resources yourself to actually apply that knowledge, You have to go to somebody else who does have those things.
Thank you.
Welcome.
What about you, Jax? What do you think?
So first of all, yeah, it is a really, really good question. And I agree with you. I think it's like we sort of do the pendulum swing thing, right? It's like, I feel like there was like a lot of negative energy, especially in female land for a really long time. And now we're on the like, you rock girl, empowerment, you know, whatever, which is amazing. And I definitely will take that over the opposite. Okay, for sure. But like both of my brands, their core values, like one of them is educate, empathize, empower, and the other one is educate, equip, empower. And the whole reason that is because exactly what Dr. Michelle was kind of referring to, right? The fact that you have to have the fundamentals, right? So you have to have that educational base, and then you do need to be empowered and kind of push to like go and do the thing to take that and walk down the path. But if you don't have any of the bases for, you know, the understanding, the fundamentals, then it's going to be really hard to walk down the road to lead you to where you want to go. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to overthink this and have every single tiny bit of it figured out, but you do have to have the crux. And I see this a lot in moms groups specifically. So some woman like asks a question about, I don't know, fill in the blank, something with their finances, something with their marriage or whatever, to a bunch of strangers who 75% of them are posting anonymously. So they're not even doing it with their own face name attached to the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're just giving this random advice, trying to empower them. And I'm like, we don't have enough details. We don't have enough facts. And we're not giving them good information, because my attitude is always to give as good of information as I can with the current facts, and then empowering them to dig within themselves. Like Dr. Michelle said, talk to somebody, or if you don't want to talk to anybody, ask yourself hard questions. Heck, if you want to have a conversation and be vulnerable with ChatGPT or Claude or whoever, whatever, right? Like, but just start digging down, because you're not going to get to where you want. You're not going to get to true empowerment. Empowerment's not just a pretty word, right? What does it actually mean? What does the crux of the word mean? It means to basically go and do, right? Not just be the cheerleader on the sideline, like, good, you go, girl. Like, that's not the thing. So I just think it's important for people to remember, without the basis of that background, you're not going to get where you want to go.
I think I would add to that too, that, you know, empowerment needs to be authentic. And so, you know, we see a lot of men and women across the globe who deliver these impeccable, empowering speeches. And they make it sound like it's easy. But if we're authentic about the financial journey and starting literally where we are, it opens the door to men and women being more comfortable talking about exactly where they are. So I think empowerment with authenticity turns into economic empowerment, meaning you're not listening and seeing the end result, but you're actually being told what it looked like in the rough waters, or what I call the turbulence. So I think that as we dive deeper into financial literacy, even the people who have come through to the other side and are now investors, they're now funding projects, they're doing acquisitions, they're, you know, all of the things. Everyone else wants to know, what was the messy middle? What was the messy beginning, right? We don't always want to see the success story. We want to see the in between, because we all know that it exists. But what's depicted out there currently is a disservice right now, which actually cripples the women's economic system. And oftentimes, as sad as it is to say, it's women doing it. So
Yeah.
I would love to see empowerment with authenticity that turns into economic empowerment. So one more question, and then we are going to go to our next amazing speaker. Now, this one to me is a very deep question for a lot of reasons, and I know we're going to hear 3 different answers. What does the future of women's wealth actually look like over the next 5 to 10 years? And how can women in this room position themselves now to be a part of that shift instead of watching it happen? So I know it's kind of a two-parter. So Kathy, you're shaking your head like, yep, I got this. So I'm going to lean into
I do, because I love this question. AI and automation systems that I talk about are projected to eliminate 30 to 40% of the jobs. The majority of those jobs are for women.
Mm.
That can be a detriment, or it can be the greatest opportunity that ever lived. And women who seize this opportunity to transition, to reinvent, to reimagine who they are and what they can do and the services they bring, and align it with the authenticity of who they are. Yes, you see, this is the topic that riles me up, is there is so much opportunity right now, and we need to seize it. You hear all the time about the Great Depression being the greatest opportunity. Women own this moment in time. Become educated, start your own business, use your expertise and monetize it. Learn about investments, become independent and strong. This is our moment. There was somebody that I saw, someone recently, who said that when every human being has the income they need, now the world becomes a better place. Because, and this is one of the things that I've talked about so many times, think about all the projects that we can do, and the homelessness and the oceans and the environments and it's magical. And so don't use this time to be afraid of the rapid change, but find where you fit in it.
Mm-hmm. You lit up like the Christmas tree. All right, let's popcorn over to Dr. Michelle.
Listen, I'm so fired up. Like, I'm actually a little emotional thinking about this, because it just, the whole conversation hits so close to home. First off, what's going to happen is we women are going to rule the world. Okay. I mean, it's just what it is, right? We're actually in the middle of, I think, one of the greatest shifts in female empowerment. We're starting to become more aware. We're becoming more vocal. Like, that's exactly what's happening. We're actually helping each other too. If anybody is ever on Threads, like, go check it out if you're not on Threads, because there is so much female empowerment happening over there. It's insane. But I think about things like some of the, like a conversation I had yesterday with a new client. She's in a very difficult situation with her husband that she is trying to get out of. And there are a lot of challenges with that. I have met with so many women that are either single moms, divorced, and like, I don't know what to do because they didn't manage all the finances, or in some type of difficult situation, and they're like, I don't know what to do. I need to get out of this situation. I want to have some understanding. And it breaks my heart, not only to see other women dealing with that sort of thing, but Hannah, you talked about like vulnerability. And I'm not fully 100% talking publicly about this yet, partly because a book is coming a little bit about it later this year, thanks to Hannah and She Rises. But I recently finally left a domestic violence situation. And as I was coming through that, and I was starting to look more at the empowerment side on that piece of it, I did a lot of research in the statistics, and I found out that the majority of the individuals that are in domestic violence situations are also dealing with financial abuse.
Yes.
It is an epidemic.
Super common.
People often ask, I don't understand, why do you stay? But they don't understand the financial complications of that sort of situation.
Mm.
And so not only do they need financial and like mental, emotional support, but they also need financial support.
Mm-hmm.
And the resources out there sometimes are not feasible. When I went through my situation last year, it was my home. I own the home. He was in my house. But for me to feel safe, I would have had to leave. And to go to a shelter, I would have had to ask someone else to keep my dog.
Mm.
I know it's a dog, it's not a child, but still my dog is my family.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I was limited on my capabilities, and I needed to feel safe in my own home.
Mm.
But there's people out there that are dealing with even worse situations than that.
Yeah, but don't
Yeah.
minimize your situation, because trust
No,
me,
no.
I've been there, done that, got that t-shirt. So I hear you.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But like that just fires me up. And what I see happening is we're having these conversations and we're getting real about this stuff. And actually, like, I grew up where it was, we don't talk about this stuff. We don't even talk about it in the house, but we definitely don't talk about it out of the house. Right.
Mm.
So we're getting away from that. And that is enlightening a lot of people and empowering people and helping people to find their voice.
Mm.
And that's going to change everything.
Well, thank you for sharing, Michelle, and thank you for being vulnerable. I think it's a very important piece of the growth of what you're doing personally and professionally, but also for other women watching and listening, knowing, one, that they're not alone, and two, that you're a resource. And that's kind of what this whole thing is about, is the resource education. So thank you. All right, Jax.
So first of all, I really love that Kathy was tying in the AI piece, because I actually teach about AI a lot to like business owners and things like that. And one of the things that I've learned is that there's so many people that are afraid of change, and they're afraid of AI. And AI has been around since like the 1950s, but AI is either going to be the biggest amplifier, right? Or it's just going to kind of destroy you, and you get to choose what that is. And I think the beautiful part about women specifically is we tend, not always, we tend to have higher EQ than a lot of men do, right? And so we have this great ability to be able to take this amazing technology that can really amplify you, amplify your voice, amplify what you're able to do, who you're able to reach. And then you can pair it and partner it with this amazing EQ of creating community and bringing others in, right? And leaning into your humanity and really allowing this to propel you from a financial aspect hugely forward, right? I mean, look at all the good that, and I cannot think of the life of me of her name, the woman who divorced Jeff Bezos, like what she's doing. I mean, she's amplifying that money tenfold, right? By the way that she's giving back, she's helping others or whatever. And I think the women are going to continue to do this. And as they continue to link arms with other women, with other men and people like this, I mean, it literally can be this huge ripple effect that can not only change a financial future for just women as a group, but also just for the entire world, if we will let it and allow it to, right? And by being authentic about, not being afraid to tell your story about your failures, right? Things like that. I'm very vocal on my own podcast about my own financial struggles, because I need people to see that I've got 20 plus years in this space and I'm still not perfect. I'm still not doing it exactly correct, right? Like, that's okay. But you know what? We have to be here for each other, lifting each other up and moving forward and using each other and reaching your hand down. And I think that's something women are doing so much better than we ever have in history. And so that part really excites me, because I used to be a person who, I'm going to be real, I didn't have a lot of female friends. I was kind of shut out of that space. And so to now have most of my friends be female, to be surrounded by these empowering women, is just an incredible thing. And I think that's going to start, you're going to start seeing this ripple moving forward. And that's so exciting.
Well, I hope so. And I do believe that if you have significant influence, because you have made it through and you are now on the side of thriving, it is 100% your absolute due diligence to turn back around and reach for the next woman. And if we don't, we'll continue to see some of what is already in existence, but it'll propel faster. So why not propel the other faster? My answer to this is close to Kathy's. To me, the future of women's wealth is not just about making more money, but it's more about owning the system. And the system is AI. The system, it has a ton to do with technology. And even if you are a woman who is 72 or 99 or 22 or 7, you are currently utilizing a system, whether you realize it or not. So the more you learn it, the more you understand it, and the more you own it over the course of the next 5 to 10 years, we're going to see one of the biggest and largest economic shifts in history by women that aren't just participating in the economy, but they're actually the driving force. And that is undeniable. It's going to happen. Some of the very people we watch on television today are going to be non-existent dinosaurs because of what they're teaching, what they're portraying. And it's going to shift. And that 5 to 10 year that I'm talking about that we just roundtabled is coming fast. It can be here sooner for all we know. So women are already influencing over, 70 to 80% of consumer spending globally. So I always say this, like, we own the cookie. Point blank, period. And the future is female. And two main reasons. We own the cookie, the purchase power. We make the purchasing decisions now. And the other is we make up more than half the population on the planet. However, we still have to understand and own these systems and utilize them to our advantage, whether it's a simple system within your phone or if it's a simple system within, it doesn't matter. But the system, you learning it, owning it, utilizing it, and continuing that. So what if I were to say, or at least this is what I think, women owning media would be number one. It's already happening because mainstream media shuts down voices quicker than my grandson goes through diapers. If the story if it doesn't bleed, it doesn't read. And like this right here, what's happening right now, this is a monumental conversation that mainstream would not pick up. So now we're living proof right now in action of what we do to get the message across. We created a media ecosystem, so we'll own the media in your face. Number 2, owning the platforms. Again, 4 women sitting here in a space. The proof is in the pudding. Number 3, owning equity. It's happening. It's not going to stop. Number 4, women funding women. That's going to be a big one. It already is, but it's going to grow so much more. Women stepping into policy. God, I hope more do. I cannot even stress how important it is for women to step into policy, finance, and decision-making rooms. Because we do, as Jax pointed out, have the emotional intelligence. And another fun fact for people to know who are watching this, we're not asking for the seat. We don't want your seat. We're just going to build our own tables. And that's the facts. And so with that said, that is what I see happening over the next 5 to 10 years. So thank you, ladies, for joining this little short round table mastermind moment. And we're going to bring on, I believe, our last speaker for today. Last but definitely not least. And we'll stay, after she shares her expertise, we can reopen this for a little bit or answer any questions that our viewers may have. So Lisa, if you want to transition into our next speaker. So You've already seen her today. You've heard a little bit from her, but I'm so excited and honored to bring Dr. Michelle Lappin to our economic stage today. Dr. Michelle is a licensed financial strategist, junior broker, author, and speaker who is so passionate about helping women build confidence, clarity, and control over their financial lives. With nearly 2 decades of experience, she specializes in individuals and families who want to create sustainable financial strategies from cash flow, debt reduction, and to wealth building for short and long-term planning, because it is both. So please help me welcome Dr. Michelle Lappin. Thank you for being here.
Wow. First, thank you. That was an incredible introduction. And I also wanted to take a second to thank the entire team. When I say the entire team, I mean even the people that are doing things in the background, because I know that happens, who put this event together, and also for allowing me to be here, because I'm just so grateful. I also want to take a second to thank everyone who is here today listening. Thank you for your time. It is very valuable, and the fact that you chose to be part of this conversation means a lot. This topic wasn't always an easy topic to lean into for me and for many people. Excuse me. I don't know what is going on with me right now. It's not easy to lean into, but it is very important. So I'm really honored to be here with you today. And I have to say, I think Hannah and I must have been having some of the same reflections as we prepared for this conversation today. And I love that, because it actually reinforces what's important. So on that note, I have a question for you. Have you ever felt like you're behind financially? Like maybe you should know more, be further along, have it more figured out by now? Here's what I want you to know. You are not behind. Hannah said it earlier. You just were never taught. And I don't say that lightly. Going more into vulnerability, I say it because I've lived it. There was a time in my life when I went through a major financial crisis. Y'all, before I turned 30 years old, literally 29 years old, I purchased my first home completely on my own. And I was so proud of myself, because I saw my mother lose 3 houses growing up. But guess what? I made the same mistakes. And I landed in the same situation. I had to let go of my home. I had to rely on a food bank. I lived in income-based housing. And I had to rebuild from the ground up. And that wasn't even the hardest part. The hardest part was realizing how much I didn't know. No one had ever taught me how money actually works. Not how to manage it, not how to protect it, and definitely not how to build it. And then to top it off, I realized it wasn't just me. Literally about only 30 to 35% of women feel confident in their financial knowledge. Women earn less on average, yet often carry similar or greater financial responsibilities. And many retire with less while living longer. And when you look a little bit deeper, you start to see even more of that picture. Women actually influence or make over 80% of the financial decisions in the household. Even if they're not fully controlling the budget and the money, they're still making the decisions. Yet many don't feel confident in those decisions. Only about 1 in 3 women feel confident when it comes to making financial decisions. And less than 25% of women feel confident about their retirement. How many of you are probably like, I haven't even thought about retirement? So I want to pause for just a second. Because for a lot of women, finances don't just feel confusing. They feel heavy. There's guilt, there's shame, and there's a quiet voice that says, I should have done better by now. But I want to say this to you. You cannot expect yourself to operate at a level you were never taught to. So if you've been carrying any shame around your finances, I want to encourage you to release that today. Because this isn't about blame. It's about awareness and what you choose to do next. So if you've ever felt unsure or overwhelmed, it's not because you're not capable. It's simply because there's a gap in education. And here's what I've seen. When women begin to understand their finances, again, in alignment with what Hannah was talking about earlier, everything starts to shift. You make decisions differently. You ask better questions. You stop avoiding things and start facing them. You move from confusion to clarity. From fear to confidence. From reacting to being intentional. And it doesn't mean everything becomes perfect overnight. But it does mean that you're no longer operating alone or in the dark. And here's what changes it all. When you start to close that financial education gap, you begin to, here's that word again, position yourself differently. And when you position yourself with the right knowledge and environment, you gain power. Power in understanding, power in confidence, and power in your decisions, which also helps you gain proximity to the right people, the right conversations, and the right opportunities. And that, ladies, will lead you into purpose. When you're no longer just surviving, you're building intentionally. And when that happens, prosperity becomes a byproduct. And I just want to say, prosperity isn't just about the dollar amount in your bank account. It is so much more than that. So you're probably thinking, okay, this is great. I love this. I feel good. There's a lot of good words here, but where do I start? So I'm going to tell you. First, you have to get clear on where you are. Yes. Hannah, I'm talking about that ugly B word you mentioned earlier you don't like. You have to budget. And I will tell you, when I talk to my clients and they don't like that word, I get it 100%. You don't have to use that word. Find another word that makes you feel better about it. Words matter, okay? Words matter. And when you have a word that you're like, I don't like that word, a lot of times what you do is you end up avoiding it, which doesn't help anything. So change it. Call it a spend plan. Call it a money management plan. Whatever makes sense to you. But you can't avoid it. You actually have to look at your numbers. You have to also start learning how money actually works. Even small steps in understanding can begin to shift everything. And you have to get around the right environment, because the conversations you're in will either expand you or keep you stuck. And I want to give you 2 practical things that you can actually start using today. First and foremost, when we talk about that ugly B word. There's a couple of systems and tools that are out there. I believe it was Jax that was talking earlier about like knowing what works best for you. I have literally met with people that are like, I am a pen and paper person. Cool, no problem. There's plenty of planners out there that'll work great for you. Plenty of options. Some people are Excel people. There's a lot of free resources on Excel. As long as you have Microsoft Office, you can go search budget trackers. There's a ton of apps out there as well. So take a look at what makes sense for you. I literally built a budget tracking sheet in Word for somebody because that was what worked best for her. Not easy to do, but I did it. So that's number one. Number two, take a look. We're talking about retirement planning earlier, right? Take a look at the old accounts that you have. Things like a 401k from a prior employer or an IRA that you haven't looked at in a while. And don't just assume that it's doing what's best for you. Know where it is, what it's doing, and if it's in line with your goals. And we talked a bit about awareness, right? Awareness creates control. And once you have control, you can start making intentional decisions. I want you to remember this. Most people don't have a money problem. They have a visibility problem. So if there's one thing that I want you to truly take away from today, it's this. As I said in the beginning, you are not behind. You just may not have been taught yet. But once you are, everything changes. For some of you, this is about getting your finances in order finally. For others, it might look like helping others while creating additional income. Either way, I personally would love to connect with you and show you what that could look like. I so appreciate your time. This has been incredible, and just thank you again.
Thank you, Dr. Michelle. I really love how you honed into on retirement, which is another uncomfortable word, right?
Yes.
But what about the women that are ready or they want to start setting themselves up now, right? And then on the business side, let's talk about that for 2 seconds. What if you are in this moment in your business where you are building your actual exit?
Exit from corporate?
Exit from your building, meaning your business. Like,
Gotcha.
how many women do you see who are building these extraordinary businesses and then packaging them up and selling them for a beautiful amount of money to take that and invest in something else and grow something else? Because the more and more that we look at women in business, and I've said this and I wholeheartedly believe it, that oftentimes what we step into as a woman in business is not what we exit out of.
Yes.
And so if our growth is happening, right, the mindset, but also the wealth is growing, the shift is happening, you learn more and you're able to invest, you're able to grow. And it's a thing. But also the woman who, what if she's afraid to exit out of where she's at in the workforce, right? There's so many different ways to talk about this. And so retirement, your exit plan, your contingency plan, all of these things are so important that you talked about today. Like we could have another 6 hours of this. So thank you.
Yeah. Did you want me to answer that question or?
I do.
Okay. So I will speak first on the personal side of like the transition from like corporate or full-time and like, what do you do there? Because literally I just did that almost 2 years ago. Okay. I was prior military, served in the military for 10 years, transitioned out of the military, and a couple of years later ended up working for the government as a civilian. Yes, I work for the government. Don't hate me. I don't anymore, but I do use their benefits because why not? But anyways, I literally was at this place. I had gotten to the point of education where I got my doctorate degree while I was working full time, literally working full time, going to school, lots of sleepless nights or nights that I cry myself to sleep during that season. But I got to the point where I had all this education, all this experience, all these skills, all these capabilities while building a business on the side. And I was so limited on what I can do with my time and capabilities for my clients because I was working this full-time job, 40 hours a week in a place that I realized did not value me. I continued to get passed over for things. Like, they didn't want to get my input. They were asking people that had absolutely no experience in administration and HR to do things that I had already proven I had the capabilities to do. And I realized the longer I stayed in a place that didn't value me, the more I was devaluing myself. Once I realized that, I put a plan in motion. I had some things that I need to take care of because, all of us can have debt regardless of where you're at in life. So I had some things I had to take care of. So first off was awareness. Second was putting a plan together. And third was just working that plan. And within 6 months, I worked the plan, left my full-time job. And then I was actually, before I left my full-time job, I was bringing home half of my take-home pay from full-time job in my business part-time, barely doing 10 to 15 hours a week. So it freed up all that time, and then I was able to actually truly help people more and help myself. Right? So awareness, put the plan together, and act on the plan. I know there's some people that are huge risk takers that are just going to take the leap without a plan. Great. I love that for you. I don't recommend it for most people. Not really that smart. Sorry. That's just my perspective. For those who maybe have been operating their business for a long time or in that space where hey, I want to settle my business down. I want to go enjoy my life. First off, absolutely love that. Recommend that. It'll be me one day. It's never too early to start. You start a business, even if you can only do a little bit, you should start putting something away to build for after you settle you put your business down, right? And then I will also say, even doing that, you should be working with a tax professional, CPA, financial planner, all of those things, because you're going to not only start early and see a huge advantage later on, but you're also going to have a lot of tax advantages throughout the process, which is going to save you money and give you more of an opportunity to save later or make more later. But if you haven't gotten to that point, it's not too late. It's really not too late. I'll go back to what I said earlier. Just sit down and talk to somebody, because there's probably things that you can do that you didn't know about.
I think that, today's topics have been so informative. So Lisa, if you want to bring on Kathy and Jax, we can jump into a quick rapid fire. But I wanted to hone in a little bit more, Michelle, on what you were talking about visibility and proximity. And I'm going to tell you a true story that I've never told a soul. And so Adriana's probably going to kick my tush. But as a female who wasn't educated on finance, who had zero, the only thing that I knew was that I wanted to make money, because I knew money was something that made things happen. And so that's why I say money is a tool. It really is, to at least up here in my mind it is. And so my first job was a lemonade stand. I think I was 6. And I had this goal that I wanted to buy shoes because my mom couldn't afford it. My grandparents could, but barely. And I also had this, I was a very independent little girl. I was left alone a lot. And so the wheels would turn constantly. And I would see people using money to buy things. And I thought, well, all I need to do is get the money and I can buy the things I want. And so my lemonade stand was a success. I bought pink Reebok shoes. And this is a true story. Then I realized I'm growing up and I want more money. I don't want to ask anyone to buy my hairspray. And back in those days, now I'm really aging myself, Rave and Aquanet were important. I wanted it. So I knew I needed money. So I worked at a very young age. And so knowing that money made things happen, but I still didn't know how to use it, but I knew how to spend it. Then I became a mother and a single mom, which I didn't choose. And I do want to say I have a big heart for single mamas because I don't think that they just wake up one day and say, ooh, pick me. I'm here for it. Most don't. It comes from financial hardship, domestic problems, and the list goes on and on. But you can never shame or blame a woman who's a single mother because there's a root there. And so I was now a single mother working one job to pay for the bills and the other to pay for the daycare so that I could work to pay the bills. And that to me did not compute. It was a battle forever and ever and ever. And so looking back now, where She Rises Studios is going to be open almost 6 years since the day we said She Rises Studios, which was actually She Rises, She Leads, She Lives. I knew in my heart of heart, if I was going to take this leap with no money, no one believing in me, me not having the true education background, I was the one that you said you don't recommend doing it. I did take the leap. And I'm talking in the forest with the lighter fluid, no lake, no nothing, no extinguisher. We went in. And I can tell you, I wouldn't recommend it either because there's no sleep. There's a lot of doubters. There's naysayers. But here's what I can tell you. If you make a plan, which is what every single one has said today, if you have a system, if you make a plan, if you stick to it, the grit, the tenacity, the mindset. And luckily for me, I did have later on 2 years, 3 months into it, some support, someone saying, wow, you're really onto something. This is really going somewhere. Why am I telling you this? Because had I had the support from the very beginning, it would have looked a lot different. But I also put a time frame on my career with She Rises Studios. I said, you get me for 10 years. That was almost 6 years ago. I'll be 52 this year. I love She Rises Studios. I love Phoenix TV. I absolutely love, beyond in love with the women's economic system. But I do want to have and complete the plan that I set out to exit, yet for them to continue while I am out traveling, building schools, buying furniture for children, working with single mamas. And having this type of business allows that, but it didn't happen overnight. Because as I mentioned earlier, it's almost 6 years. I had a valuation done. And for those that don't and even know what a valuation is, that's another conversation. But it just got completed. And looking back, and this is a true story, I say Hannah Olivas from the east side of Las Vegas. 20 plus million podcast listeners over the last 6 years for a woman who was told her voice didn't matter. Global television distribution is averaging right now between 127 and 136 countries. 1,800 plus books published, not mine, yours, your stories, your businesses, your wins, your learns. 15 monthly print and digital magazines that are distributed globally. 30 plus international media features. Right now, cumulative, as of today, just little old me has somewhere between 30 to 50 million cumulative annual impressions. My point is, number one, it's okay to brag. And it's okay to say, yeah, girl, because if I can do it, so can you. So can the next woman. And so can the next woman. So never underestimate the power of a woman, because I'm living proof of that. Kathy is living proof of that. Jax is living proof. Dr. Michelle is living proof, and so many other women. My daughters are living proof. But all you have to do is make the plan. Connect with someone who can help you, who can support you, who can educate you. Because the last thing that I'm tired of hearing every single day is, I can't afford it. That's the reality. That's why this summit is happening today. And there's more stories like mine beyond who've done way more. And I'm just beginning. But I did give myself a retirement goal that Michelle talked about, an exit plan. But when you make, you can give, right? So here's the question, ladies. Tell me about your exits. What does that look like? Where will you be in 10 years or 5 years from today, Jax? What does that look like?
That's an excellent question. So I have two businesses. I own PBJ Mortgage, where we're making mortgage simple. Simple is making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And then the Financial Mastery Simplified piece, which is coaching courses, podcast platform. For me, I've been working on setting up PBJ for success where it almost runs itself for a while. Not that I don't speak into it or help it, things like that, but sort of stepping into my passion aspect, which is really educating on a bigger, broader scope. My goal is to build a community of people, probably more women-centric, but I'm not sure exactly all the details of that, right? I'm not anti-man, so if they want to come and join us, I'm good with that too. Of just not only me and doing what I do best in the financial space, but other women who can educate about things that maybe I'm not as proficient in, right? Just trying to deepen that ability for women to find the resources that they're looking for, to be able to live their life on their terms in a way that resonates with them in an abundant way. And so in 10 years, honestly, hopefully in closer to 5, I still speak and I still do my podcast. It's probably my favorite part of my business. I don't think I'll ever stop doing that just because I really enjoy it. But I'm not the one who is running all that show. I have created more of a platform for others to be elevated and to speak and to help. And yes, I'm there. And yes, I'm maybe the figurehead, but I'm not the one who's 24/7, because I'll be real with you. I didn't even want to be the face of my business for a really long time, because for me, it was never about the Jax show. I could care less if anybody knows my name. I could care less if anybody has a clue about, who I am. What I care about is helping people get to the potential that they hold. It drives me absolutely batty that people can't see that within themselves. It is my truest gift that when I meet somebody, I can see into them. I can see exactly who they can be and try to help push this into fruition. And my ultimate aim is just to be able to step back and enjoy my family, to be able to travel and help the world in a bigger, broader way, but not necessarily have to be in the day to day. Like Kathy was saying, making sure that there's appropriate systems in place and things in place. And so I hope that in 10 years, I am whatever place on the planet I so choose to visit and spend time in, and enjoying my youngest daughter and her education. And I hope that the mission that I'm sort of set on really does truly touch the world like I intend for it to.
I wholeheartedly believe it already is. I really do.
I appreciate
All right, Kathy, what's yours?
Well, I have multiple streams of my business. Finally, business infrastructure was built with legacy in mind right from the beginning, because what I do is help businesses create that infrastructure and systems. And so I took that responsibility of other people's businesses very seriously and knew that I needed to build it, that if anything happened to me, retirement or any other, that those businesses were taken care of and running. So everything was built with legacy in mind. And so the other parts of my business, the audits and things like that, that's a really good question, because I'm not sure that is, I think that's maybe something I need to be thinking about on how to transition my methodology and my experience and my knowledge so that it outlives me.
Thank you. Dr. Michelle.
You know, I'm sitting here kicking myself because as I just talked about the importance of plans, hearing you talk about your exit strategy from the business that you started when you started the business, and then the question, I realized I haven't really thought that much about it yet. Maybe it's because I was so excited to just get started and take, transition from, full-time employee to operating a business full-time. But I definitely have to put more in-depth thought on that as far as like what I really want it to look like, what age would I like that to happen. In 10 years, I'm going to basically be somewhere around where you are right now. So I will probably have grandbabies. Hopefully it's closer to 10 years, but I can say this, I am moving myself into a space of not, like, everybody knows me as the money girl, right? Like that's who I've become over the last like 7 to 10 years, which is great, but I'm not just the money girl. Like I am so much more than that. So I'm moving more into this space of speaker and author and podcast host, which I have a podcast that I haven't done anything with in 2 years. So I want to move into those spaces more, but what I want in every capacity is to have residual income that is continuously coming in when I step away from my business. Not only just for me while I'm still living, but that's also going to transfer down to my family. Because like both Jax and Kathy said, it's about legacy. 100% about legacy. I want to be able to give my son and his family what I didn't have growing up, with education, of course. But that is 100% what I see happening.
Well, ladies, I thank you so much for contributing to Financial Literacy Month. And, this is, we haven't even like scratched the surface of all of the different things that are under the umbrella of financial literacy. And that is why I have personally pivoted to this subject. And I think that what I'm hearing across the board is the system, owning the system, learning how to utilize the tools, and that it's never too late to start. It really isn't. and sometimes it does require working backwards, right? We don't have to have it all figured out as much as we want to. We don't have to. We just actually have to start. And so I hope that the individuals who are watching, that this really pierced your mind and heart in a different way, to know that, we see you, we hear you, we know you're there, first and foremost. But secondly, your win is our win too. Because if you're succeeding, if you're becoming more and more financially fit, you are now an intricate piece of the women's economic system and the uprising of the good. And that is important. That is powerful. So every single one of us here today, and those watching, everyone has a due diligence. And so when you win, so do we. And when we win, so do you. And so that eliminates that competition and some of the other stuff. And so empowerment with economics equals a system, a currency in itself. And so thank you. So before we close out today, Kathy, can you share again on how people can best connect with you?
Absolutely. Everything is under my brand, Kathy Baldwin, Kathy with a K.me.
What about you, Jax? What's the best way to connect with you?
So they can go to my website. It's literally jaxkreider.com. I'm everywhere on the internet. I promise if you put in Jax Kreider, you'll find me. So if you don't want to go to the website, you can literally Google me. I'm pretty sure I'll come up.
And Dr. Michelle.
Literally the same thing Jax just said. Like, you can Google Dr. Michelle Appen, you're going to find all kinds of stuff. But also on social media, I'm dr.michellemarie, and my website is www.drmichellememarie.com. I always have to say to www because I confuse myself, but very simple, very simple.
You can also find them in the Sheconomy, that I do know. So I just want to say a huge thank you to you all for joining us today and being a part of this summit. And I can't wait to see what's to come, because I think it's so vital, this conversation, and there's many more to come with that. But I encourage those who watch, listen, and who will watch later, connect, ask, build the bridges, fill the gaps. That's what this is about. And so as we wrap up today, I just want to remind you that wealth is not just about money. It's about clarity. It's about intention and the systems that you build that support your life. And so you've heard powerful insights today. Now it's time for you to step in and take action. So thank you again to all of the incredible speakers today for being here. And they are investing in your growth right now. And of course, if you are ready to become a Sheconomist, go in and take a look, because what is happening is revolutionary. And you can look at that by going to sheconomymedia.com. And I want to see you there. And that concludes today's financial summit. Happy Financial Literacy Month to everyone. May your finances rise. My name is Hannah Oliva, CEO of She Rises Studios, the creator and CEO of Sheconomy, and I am so proud to be a female. Bye, everyone.